What's up, y'all? It's RAZY, and I'm back to take on the topic of emotions for y'all. It is Cancer season, as most of y'all know, and Cancer season is very emotional as it is a water sign, and water signs have to do with tapping into the feels, right? So what are emotions, and how do emotions relate to quantum shifting, and how do we use emotions to properly shift our life and mold our life? I'm gonna plug myself here if you haven't watched my video on quantum shifting, so you can get the gist of what I mean by that, and then come back to this video on emotions. So let's get straight to it, right? Emotions, in the way that I put it, are energy in motion. It's as simple as that. And energy in motion, right? Just like, for example, how water can power up electricity. If you have like that system where it looks like a windmill, but it's picking up the water and the water is moving that, right? And then it creates energy, kinetic energy, which then travels through copper and elements, and it travels through those elements and it powers up a light bulb or whatever you need the electricity for, right? So energy in motion, when the water inside of your body, which is representative of your feelings, are in motion, then it can fuel things. It can create life and create more around it. So energy is meant to be kinetic. It is meant to be moving, right? Just as we are meant to shift through our life, and as our atoms in our body are completely rearranging itself literally within a few milliseconds on the planet while you're alive. You are constantly in motion, but there is a lot of people, or there's specifically a group of people on the planet that have taught the population how to be stagnant in order for you to be powerless, right? They've taught you how to only pay attention and validate certain emotions and suppress and repress others. Well, when you suppress or repress, you are actually causing a buildup of energy within you, and a buildup of feelings that absolutely need to be worked at and examined, because emotions are cyclical, just like the days, right? The day and the night, the months, the seasons. Everything in life is cyclical. We are constantly going around and around, right? In circles, so to speak. And our job is to, instead of looping within the same dynamic, it is our job to continue to move and spiral upwards, right? To reach greater levels and growth. Life is about growth. So back to water. Water sustains and brings life to plants, to us. We're made up mostly of water. We're made up mostly of feelings. You know, the vibrations that you speak out, it then charges the water within you, your feelings. This is where your feelings are, right? Within your water in your body. So when you get really in tune with your intuition, which is run on emotions, when you get really in tune with your intuition and you start to learn how to completely listen and unblock yourselves of the junk and the gunk that has created a blockage in the flow of the water inside of you, of your emotions, from going through its cycle, right? When you're able to tap in all the way in, then you're able to start to see and shape the future. Because your emotions is what shows you which direction to take in life. Which options on your plate are better for you than others. And it's not as simple as if the emotion feels good, well, then you just do it. Well, yeah, it is kind of that simple. But most of us get lost within the words of what emotions are, and we don't even understand our own feelings. We don't understand that something like nervousness and excitement and anxiousness are all the same. So when you feel anxious, you might want to run away, when sometimes it's actually just your body and the water in you is getting moved. So it's excited because something big is coming, something big is coming, something is about to change. And you might not realize that because you are responding to a thought or a idea, things in your mental realm, which have nothing to do with your intuition and your emotions, that might be stopping you from following the quote unquote anxiousness, as you may like to call it, right? So how do we get this all squared out? How do we start to reprogram all these words? Well, first of all, throw out all of the ideas that you have around what you think emotional means. Because you can be very put together and stoic, but a very emotional person. That's what the energy of Aquarius shows us, the water bearer, the most detached alien spacey sign, which happens to be my moon sign. Often we get ridiculed for not crying or not being emotional. That's only because most people only consider emotions as crying, right? But that's not true. You can be highly emotional, feeling into all of what is going on around you, and still be the observer who allows all of that to pass. It doesn't always relate to you crying. You can also release all of those waters in so many different ways, not just through the tear ducts in your eyes. Not to say that if you cry, that's not a bad thing, right? It's a beautiful release. But even with crying, there can be a sort of addiction to that, addiction to pain, to self-hurt and self-sabotage in order for you to release. Because that's the only way you know how, right? So, emotions and water. This leads me into talking about the weather. Now, why does the weather relate to emotions? There are articles out here talking about how the temperature, right, around you is very influential to how you feel and what you're feeling. And most of us know this to be true. We can be outside all day long in the heat and get very frustrated and very angry because we just don't want to be surrounded by this heat. You know, we want like water, we want to be cool, we want the AC, right? Things like the AC and central air and heaters, right? These are all things to help you control. Even a sweater or a jacket helps you control your temperature so that you can keep a quote unquote level head, or you can balance out your emotions, right? Now keep that in mind. Back to the weather, right? The weather obviously influences the temperature, and the weather itself cycles. We need all seasons. We need the rain just as much as we need the sun. We need it to be windy so that the flowers' pollination can go into the air and reach other parts of the land and pollinate itself, right? We need everything in nature. And nature is cyclical. Nature is nurture. Nature is cyclical. And the weather is cyclical. Do you find yourself often more sad and depressed in the winter when it's raining outside? You are affected by what's happening in the skies, not just the planets, but in our ozone layer. You are affected by the amount of sun you receive or don't receive. Now, we understand that you need some vitamin D from the sun. You absolutely need it. But then when you're out in the sun for too long, you might start to hate it because you're sweating, right? And you're getting the emotions out, right? So remember, it's not just the tear ducts in your eyes, but even when you sweat and you work out, that's a way to temper your emotions. So where am I going with this? When you start to learn how to expose yourself to different temperatures and balance your inner temperature, right? Your inner mood, then you can become a pro and a master at quantum shifting and molding your life. At seeing into the future, which is literally just seeing what is happening for you in the future. What can happen if you choose these different emotions to play out in your life? Then what is the outcomes, right? Because the future is not solid. It's technically not set in stone. There are different options, different parallels for you to be a part of. And the emotions have a lot to do with the perspective that your mind takes, right? That's why it's imperative to listen to your intuition first before you go into the mind and allow the mind now to perceive and see things. Emotions, when properly tapped in, start to, or just in general, right? Emotions is what molds the colors and the shapes, the literal world, the material matrix around you. So that's why things like colors and clothes and incense and a warm bath have such a great effect on how you feel as well. We think about it as the external influences then consequently shake and change our internal sense of being, but really it's the opposite. It truly is. You can be in the same place for years, and the way that you feel can color your life, literally color and shape around you. Such beautiful souls coming in and beautiful experiences, and you can notice the subtlety in the light hitting a flower or a leaf, an animal walking by. You can start to notice the beauty because you are choosing that inner sense of beauty inside of yourself with your emotions, because now when it rains or when the water is cold and you have to go take a shower, you don't let that cold water determine how you feel about the rest of your day, right? You're able to jump in the shower when it's cold and still enjoy your shower and understand that this is all temporary and it's all cyclical. So there's a reason why the weather around you is gloomy, but you can still feel rich and abundant and alive. And you can become the light and the sun inside of you to balance out the weather outside. But you do have to expose yourself to different circumstances and different temperatures. You can literally, practically challenge yourself by taking a walk when it's cold outside, right? Yes, wear your jacket and your sweater. Make sure that you are protecting your health. But this is what some of the great spiritual teachers of all time have done, right? They are able to sit outside in the cold with no clothes on and build the inner fire inside of themselves, stoke that inner fire so that they are actually warm. when you get used to, like, it's like when you go to the beach and then you jump in the water for the first time, it's freezing cold, but then your body adjusts. On a really hot day when the water is cold, force yourself to go into the water and to sit there for a second, and then to come back out in the sun and to get hot again, and then to go back into the water every time. It'll be a little bit different. You're not just jumping into the water and regulating your inner body temperature, you're regulating your emotions, because now every time you get hit with the cold water, the cold air, you don't automatically get angry or upset or anxious, right? You're able to keep your cool, keep your calm. That's why we say things like, we relate things like keeping your cool to emotions, right? And that's why, once again, going back to this understanding of Aquarius is, and this age of Aquarius, the chaos that it's bringing in the world, this is actually great for you to master your emotions. Because where do you want to go? What kind of life do you want to live? If you are experiencing a time where you need to purge out emotions, this goes back to those blocks. If you've never allowed yourself to deal with the circumstances and the weather around you, which also have to do with the types of relationships that are in your life. This has to do with the types of experiences you go through on a daily basis. If you wake up and you're driving to work and there's a car accident and that slows you down, you get pulled over by the cops. All of these little experiences are like the weather, your personal weather. There is no such thing as coincidences. There is no such thing as all of these forces that are out to get you. In reality, you accept that reality. That's your weather. And you either perpetuate those bad times by playing into it and allowing it to change how you feel, or you work through them, right? You work through the people cutting you off on the highway to be like, no big deal, because I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, right? But before you get there, yeah, you might have a lot of junk inside of you that needs to be worked out. All of these emotions that you've learned to ignore over years. And in order to get those things out, you have to feel them all, right? So the deeper your depression, the more that you're confronting, the more you need to pat yourself on the back, the more that you need to hug yourself and realize that you are tempering your emotions. When you temper chocolate, right? Tempering chocolate, it's the way that they get the shiny, lustrous coat on a chocolate bar. Because in reality, if you just heat up chocolate and put it to set or dry, right, or harden, it'll be like chalky. It won't be smooth like my fingernails. It won't be smooth like this. How do you get it smooth like this? Chocolate. You have to hold the bowl of hot chocolate and you have to regulate the temperature by stirring, right? Until it starts to gradually cool off. And it's a process, and it takes focus, and it takes intent. So when you're going through periods of crazy weather, whether it be the actual weather around you, the temperature, or a crazy circumstance in your life that is bringing you down, making you feel sad, making you feel frustrated, angry, whatever, how much tempering are you doing with yourself? Remember that. You have to stir the energy. It has to come out. It has to release. When you finally get all that junk out of you, it is not so hard to control how you feel. Then you move on to the mastering your emotions by mastering it dependent on what is happening around you. And then as you start to master your emotions, you start to realize that the situations around you start to change. You start to realize that you're able to step out of your house and drive to work, and there's less complications on the highway because your intuition is now so on point, right? You've allowed your intuition to heal itself, to purge and to lead that your mind listens to your intuition versus your intuition trying to navigate through the mazes that your mind sets up for you. Your emotions are key to manifesting the reality that you are looking for. And emotions create portals. So when you're in a very depressed place or a very angry place or even a very happy place, when your inner temperature is high, because there's a lot going on, right? Let's say you're about to get on stage for the first time to sing a song, perform in front of people, and you're excited, nervous, you're scared, you're anxious, you want to throw up. The energy is so high, it is spiraling around you in your aura, and it is creating a vortex, a portal. And that vortex and that portal is now open. So you now get to go where you want to go. How does that performance play out? Are you able to still get up there, stumble your words, but then perform anyway? Because when you're able to do that, you're shifting now to the reality where that performance becomes easier. Do you fumble? Do you fall? And then you run off stage crying? Because you've now went through your portal that you've created with your emotions, and you've digressed a little backwards so that the next time it's even harder to get on stage. You have to challenge yourself, right? Your emotions are your responsibility, no one else's. Absolutely no one else's. So when you don't temper your own chocolate and you let somebody else do it, right? You let somebody else inflict how they feel, project whatever onto you, and you allow them to take the batter stick and temper your own chocolate, it's not going to come out good. And then you won't know how to deal with it yourself the next time. So you have to take control of your emotions by allowing yourselves, on the very practical way, go sit in a sauna. I talk about this all the time. And just to give you a little reference, I have completely understood this concept because earlier this year I went to Mexico and for a spiritual retreat that I ran with 2 other girls, and a part of the retreat was a ceremony called a Temazcal ceremony, right? You can look it up. And it's a very ancient practice in so many cultures, and what it is like a sweat lodge. That's all that it is. It's no drugs. It's none of that. It's a sweat lodge. And you're inside this little dome that you either create yourself or has been created, and a shaman runs the experience, and you're singing, and they bring in rocks that are hot as balls, and they throw water over those rocks, close the door, and now you are surrounded by hot ass air. You're basically in an oven, right? And you push yourself to the limits. It brings out emotions in you, right? In order for you to confront them. Now, if you go sit in a sauna and you raise the temperature up and you're in there and you start crying, that's you confronting all the blocks inside of you. That's you confronting yourself. That's you taking charge of how you feel, moving through those feelings and conquering them. So keep that in mind. If you can control your inner temperature, you can shape your reality and shift through your reality to the best feeling places. But the key is to know that once you start to gain this sense of quote unquote control over your emotions, that doesn't mean that you choose one emotions and you forget the rest. What it means is that you control your reaction to these emotions, and that you choose the role of observer, right? The role of the person battering the chocolate in order to create the shine, because you can't stop creation. Creation has to do with emotions, and emotions, once again, are cyclical, like the weather. The forces out there could try to control the weather all they want, but all that's going to happen is create even more tumultuous weather that we're all going to have to deal with. So it's good for you to get a grip of yourself, right? To get in tune with your intuition. Go jump in an ice bath. Stick your hand in ice water or your face. It's actually good for your skin too. See how long you can last. See how long it can last. See what it brings up in your own emotional world. This is how you start to gain control and master how you feel. So that every time you start to feel something new, you validate that instead of suppressing it. You allow it to flow through you. You allow yourself to sit in it and not run away, not try to change externally what's happening so that you feel better. Instead, you lean into it. When you're not feeling so great, one of my favorite things to do is put on music that matches my mood. Not music to change my mood, music to match my mood. Because when my mood changes, then I will gravitate to, more exciting beats and want to dance. But if I'm sad, I'm not going to try to force myself to feel good. I'm going to stay sad. And I'm going to listen to sad music so I can sit with myself, meditate, observe how I feel, journal it out. Sweat it out, cry it out, whatever, right? Always replenish the water in your body. Stay hydrated. This is important because you need that water in you. You need to match the levels of water you have in order to be healthy. And being healthy is a part of the tempering and controlling your emotions. And most of us got a lot of anger to get out. Most of us have so much to get out. So don't be hard on yourself if you go through experiences where you just have to let it all out. That's for a reason too, 100%. And sitting in that temazcal, over 180 degrees temperature, you find your strength. I found my strength. And I found that, I have been an emotional being, regardless of what other people might say. If you are someone like me that doesn't cry often, that doesn't mean that you're not emotional. You're always cycling through emotions. Don't block yourself. Sit within your own void. See what's there. When the weather is bad, go outside and experience that so that you can start to learn to love the cycles of what's happening on earth, because that is also what's happening inside of ourselves. We are a matrix body, an earth body. So we have to love it and we have to go with the cycles. So I hope that this video on emotions makes some sense. I appreciate all of y'all, and we'll be out here soon with some tarot videos, showing you my own personal way of doing tarot. And if you want to book a shifting session with me where I help you temper your emotions, because what I do is take your energy, give it back to you just like the batter, and then we cycle and we cycle and we cycle for an hour until you feel better. And I'm showing you a blueprint of how to shift, where to shift, what are the next points that you're gonna have to temper your own emotions on your own, because I'm not gonna be there. But if you need that guide, if you are stuck within an emotion, get a shifting session with me and we can work together, right? Other than that, I have natal charts readings and progress readings where I can also just look at your progression, show you where to shift as well if you don't need that one-on-one help to get unstuck. And I will pull some cards and show you what emotions are coming up for you, and you can take matters into your own hands like we are all supposed to. I love y'all. And yes, till next time.